Violence erupts in Bangladesh after youth leader dies. Australia announces gun buyback scheme after Bondi attack. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. This is World Today. I'm Otto Othman. Violence broke out in Bangladesh's capital after a youth leader of the country's 2024 pro-democracy uprising, who was injured in an assassination attempt, died in a hospital in Singapore. Now, thousands of protesters took to the streets of Dhaka after the death of Sharif Osman Hadi was announced to demand the arrest of his killers. Several buildings in the capital, including those housing the country's two leading newspapers, were set on fire with staff trapped inside. Hadi was a key figure in last year's uprising that ended the rule of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and sent her fleeing to India. He was running for a parliament seat in the February 2026 national election. On December 12, Hadi was shot by masked assailants as he was leaving a mosque in Dhaka. He was airlifted to a hospital in Singapore for treatment, where he succumbed to his injuries yesterday. Bangladeshi police have launched a manhunt for Hadi's shooters, releasing photographs of two key suspects and offering a reward of 5 million taka for information leading to their arrests. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has announced that a national firearm buyback scheme will be established to reduce the number of guns in the community following the Bondi Beach shooting. Albanese said the scheme will mimic a buyback that was established in response to the fatal shooting of 35 people at Port Arthur in the island state of Tasmania in 1996.
Today, I'm also announcing that the government will establish a national gun buyback scheme to purchase surplus, newly banned and illegal firearms, the largest buyback since the Howard government initiated one in 1996. Australia's gun laws were last substantially reformed in the wake of the Port Arthur tragedy. The terrible events at Bondi show we need to get more guns off our streets.
The fatal shooting of 15 people at Bondi Beach on Sunday was Australia's most deadly mass shooting since 1996 attack, which prompted a major overhaul of the country's gun laws. The Brown University shooting suspect has died of a self-inflicted wound in Salem, New Hampshire, after law enforcement surrounded the storage facility where he was present. Providence Police Chief Oscar Perez offered first details on the suspect. According to Chief Perez, Portuguese national Claudio Manuel Leves Valente, aged 48, was a student of Brown University.
And I will tell you that he took his own life tonight. We have members of the Providence Police Department up in Salem, New Hampshire. And we also have the BCI unit. Obviously, the FBI and their evidence recovery unit is up there, so the process is being conducted as we speak.
The Brown University shooting left 2 victims dead. Valente has also been linked to MIT professor Nuno Loureiro's death. 2 guns were found at the scene with the body. Valente's last known address was in Miami. Israel launched several strikes on southern and eastern Lebanon, with the Israeli military claiming it targeted Hezbollah infrastructure, including a military complex. Lebanon's state-run national news agency reported that multiple strikes occurred in mountainous areas in the south and east of the country. The strikes took place at the Ceasefire Monitoring Committee, which includes the U.S. and France, is scheduled to meet today. Lebanon's health ministry said 4 people were wounded in the Taiba strike. But the national news agency reported that the strike wounded several employees in Lebanon's state electricity company as their truck was passing next to the targeted vehicle. According to the Ministry of Health, about 340 people have been killed by Israeli attacks on Lebanon since the ceasefire agreement came into effect November last year.
pelengkap dan pintu untuk kekal dingin dan lebih jimat.
The International Criminal Court strongly rejects fresh sanctions imposed by the U.S. on two more of its judges over their investigation of Israel. Now, the sanctioned judges voted to reject a challenge by Israel, which sought to end a war crimes probe in Gaza. The U.S. has already sanctioned 9 ICC judges and prosecutors for their probes of Israeli war crimes. The ICC said the sanctions are a flagrant attack against the independence of an impartial judicial institution and undermine the rule of law. It added, when judicial actors are threatened for applying the law, it is the international legal order that it is placed at risk. The court said it will continue to carry out its mandate with independence and impartiality in accordance with the Rome Statute and an interest of victims of international crimes. The court in November last year issued arrest warrants for Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant for war crimes and crimes against humanity. The U.S. will host talks in Miami today to push the next phase of the Gaza ceasefire. Donald Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff is scheduled to meet senior officials from Qatar, Egypt and Turkey in Florida, amid fears that efforts to reach the second stage of the deal are stalling. Under the second stage, Israel is supposed to withdraw from its positions in Gaza. An interim authority is to govern the Palestinian territory, and an international stabilization force is to be deployed. However, progress in moving to that phase of agreement between Israel and Hamas, which was brokered by Washington and its regional allies, has so far been slow. The ceasefire also remains fragile, with both sides alleging violations and mediators fearing that Israel and Hamas are stalling. U.S. President Donald Trump asserted he does not need congressional approval to launch strikes on land against Venezuela, despite criticism that he is already exceeding his constitutional authority with attacks at sea. Now, Trump said he would have no problem to seek authorization from the lawmakers to hit drug cartels on land in Venezuela, though he cited concerns that politicians leak like a sieve.
For any
land attacks on drug cartels in Venezuela?
I wouldn't mind telling them, but it's not a big deal. I don't have to tell them. It's been proven. But I wouldn't mind at all. I just hope they wouldn't leak it. You have people leak it. They are politicians and they leak like a sieve. But I'd have no problem doing that.
The U.S. has conducted multiple airstrikes since September against alleged drug trafficking boats in the Caribbean and Pacific, causing at least 99 deaths. According to the U.S. Constitution, while the president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, only Congress has the authority to formally declare war. EU leaders struck a deal to provide Ukraine a €90 billion loan to block its looming budget shortfalls, but failed to agree on using frozen Russian assets to come up with the funds. Now, the agreement offers Kyiv a desperately needed lifeline as U.S. President Donald Trump pushes for a quick deal to end Russia's war. After scrambling around for a solution, EU leaders settled on coming up with a loan backed by the bloc's common budget. The number one option on the table had been to tap some €200 billion of Russian central bank assets frozen in the EU to generate a loan for Kyiv. But the scheme fell by the wayside after Belgium demanded guarantees on sharing liability that proved too much for other countries. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz had pushed hard for the asset plan, but still said the final decision on the loan sends a clear signal to Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Auch wenn wir nun einen anderen Weg gegangen sind, als wir ihn heute im Verlauf des Tages über mehrere Stunden diskutiert haben, so ist die Verbindung ganz klar. Und wir haben uns auch hier vereinbart, sollte zum Zeitpunkt der Rückzahlung weiterhin keine Entschädigung gezahlt sein, werden wir die russischen Vermögenswerte zur Rückzahlung heranziehen können. Die Optionen dafür liegen auf dem Tisch.
Taiwan's Defense Ministry and Presidential Office thanked the U.S. government for proceeding with an $11.1 billion in arms sales to Taiwan, the largest ever U.S. weapons package for the island. Now, the Defense Ministry said the proposed arms sale covers 8 items, including HIMARS, rocket systems, anti-tank missiles, drones, and parts for other equipment. Now, the arms sale, which still needs U.S. congressional approval, would be the second since Donald Trump returned to office in January after a $330 million sale of parts in November. China's foreign ministry, meanwhile, expressed anger as it does with all U.S. arms sales to Taiwan, saying it severely undermines peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait and demanded an end to such deals. China views Taiwan as its own territory, a position Taipei rejects. Still ahead, TikTok signs joint venture deal to avoid U.S. ban. Now, TikTok has signed a joint venture deal with investors that will allow the company to maintain operations in the U.S. and avoid a ban threat over its Chinese ownership. Now, according to an internal memo, TikTok CEO Xiao Chu said the social media company and its Chinese owner, ByteDance, had agreed to the new entity with Oracle, Silver Lake, and MGX on board as major investors. Chu said 1/3 of the U.S. venture will be held by existing ByteDance investors and nearly 20% will be retained by ByteDance. The new setup for TikTok is in response to a law passed under Donald Trump's predecessor, Joe Biden, that has forced ByteDance to sell TikTok's U.S. operations or face a ban in its biggest market. Chu said upon the closing, the U.S. joint venture will operate as an independent entity with authority over U.S. data protection, algorithm security, content moderation, and software assurance. Meanwhile, TikTok Global's U.S. entities will manage global product interoperability and certain commercial activities, including e-commerce, advertising, and marketing. U.S. President Donald Trump has signed an executive order to reclassify marijuana as a less dangerous drug, paving the way for more medical research on the use of cannabis products. Now, the move will take marijuana out of the most hazardous category of narcotics alongside heroin and LSD. Trump said it will also make the drug better available for legitimate medical uses, such as for people with cancer and chronic pain.
I want to emphasize that the order I am about to sign is not the legalization, or it doesn't legalize marijuana in any way, shape, or form, and in no way sanctions its use as a recreational drug. It has nothing to do with that.
The signing of executive order could also be a major tax boost for companies that legally grow and sell cannabis. Thousands of Bulgarians protested against the outgoing government, demanding fair elections and judicial reforms to address what they claim is widespread corruption in the European Union's poorest member state. Now, the demonstrations held in the capital Sofia and other towns and cities come as Bulgaria prepares to adopt the euro on 1st January. Now, the outgoing government in power since January had looked set to oversee the transition to the euro, but Prime Minister Rosen Zelevskov handed in his government's resignation after weeks of street protests against state corruption and a new budget that would have increased taxes. According to the Bulgarian constitution, the country's president, Rumen Radev, should hold consultations with parliamentary groups and appoint a prime minister designate. Should they fail to form a government, Radev is expected to appoint an interim cabinet and call snap elections. A business jet crashed in North Carolina, killed all 7 people on board, including a retired race car driver and his family. The North Carolina State Highway Patrol said the plane had just taken off when it turned back to land before crashing. The jet left from Statesville Airport north of the city of Charlotte. Among those killed were retired NASCAR racing driver Greg Beifel, his wife, and their 2 children. Weather may have played a role in the crash, according to local media, which reported adverse conditions at the time, including drizzle and a low cloud ceiling. The National Transportation Safety Board said it is launching a team to investigate the crash.
Menggosok baju sekaligus boleh menjimatkan elektrik.
French authorities shipped 400,000 vaccine doses to Toulouse as part of a widespread vaccination of cattle in southern France, which will cover some 750,000 heads of cattle. Now, the doses brought in the Netherlands were taken to Rennes in Brittany by truck and then sent to South by military plane. The French government also decided controls would be strengthened to combat the spread of the disease. A support plan of over 10 million euros for small farms in areas affected by the disease will be implemented. As of 14th December, the Ministry of Agriculture had identified 113 outbreaks of the lumpy skin disease for which there is no treatment.
Ils ont été mis en condition pour être maintenant acheminés vers Toulouse. Et l'objectif, c'est qu'en fin de matinée, ces vaccins soient disponibles pour cette opération que le Premier ministre a demandé de conduire, qui est une vaccination de l'ensemble des bovins concernés par la maladie dans le sud-ouest, avec un focus tout particulier pour le département de l'Ariège, dans lequel l'objectif est que l'ensemble des animaux soient vaccinés avant le 31 décembre prochain.
Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva said he will veto a bill passed by the country's Congress to cut former President Jair Bolsonaro's 27-year prison sentence for plotting a coup.
Respeito que eu tenho ao Congresso Nacional, hora que chegar na minha mesa, eu vetarei. Tá? Isso não é segredo para ninguém. Ao chegar na minha mesa, eu vetarei. Porque primeiro vamos terminar esse processo. Nós ainda não descobrimos os financiadores, porque aquilo teve financiamento. E eu acho que nós precisamos levar muito a sério o que aconteceu.
Brazil's Senate on Wednesday voted to approve the bill, which was passed by the country's lower house last week. The bill also establishes sentence reductions for those convicted for their roles in a January 2023 riot when Bolsonaro supporters invaded and ransacked the presidential palace, Supreme Court and Congress. Last month, Bolsonaro began serving his sentence for plotting a coup against Lula after losing the 2022 election. Kazakhstan's Senate has approved a bill banning LGBT propaganda in its second reading. The bill is part of the law amendments and supplements to certain legislative acts of Kazakhstan on archival issues and limitation of distribution of illegal content. Now, the legislation forbids the broadcast of LGBT propaganda and pedophilia in public places, including internet resources. Now, according to Kazakhstan's Culture and Information Ministry, repeat offenders who distribute illegal content may face fines of $280. Violation of the law may also result in administrative detention for up to 10 days. Cuba's economy is predicted to grow 1% next year after tumbling in 2025. According to top officials, this is a grim forecast for a nation already grappling with severe shortages of food, fuel, and electricity. Now, Economy Minister Joaquin Alonso Vázquez said even scant growth depends on projected recovery on tourism, export, and service sectors. Alonso Vázquez reiterated that they are not working to dollarize the economy, and the aim of the new system is to organize currency operations, improve oversight, and regulate the legal ways to access foreign currency within the country.
Requiere máxima prioridad en el ejercicio económico 2026 la recuperación de los servicios turísticos y otros rubros exportables tradicionales, el incremento de ingresos por servicios profesionales, así como la atracción de un mayor volumen de inversión extranjera, remesas y financiamientos externos. A la vez, resulta imprescindible generar nuevos rubros exportables, agregar valor a los actuales y promover las exportaciones basadas en el conocimiento y la alta tecnología.
Next up in sports, Malaysia surpassed 200 medal targets at SEA Games.
Padamkan komputer untuk lebih penjimatan.
The Malaysian contingent has successfully surpassed its 200 medal target at the Thailand SEA Games, accumulating a total of 204 medals as of the 9th day of the competition. Now, following this encouraging performance, the National Sports Council has set a new target, eyeing the opportunity to collect more gold medals to overtake Singapore, which is currently in 4th place. The national track cycling squad brought cheer after achieving Malaysia's 200th medal target by winning gold in the men's team pursuit event at the Hua Mark Velodrome yesterday. The squad, comprising Abdul Azim Alias, Muhammad Hafiz Muhammad Jafri, Muhammad Yusri Shari, and new Joe Lau, defeated hosts Thailand, who settled for silver while Indonesia took the bronze. Earlier, the track cycling camp also shone by contributing 2 other gold medals, further boosting the nation's medal haul. One of the gold medals was delivered by Muhammad Ridwan Sahrom in the men's Kirin event. Ridwan emerged as champion after defeating the host nation's rider Ajay Angsuta Sawit by a margin of 0.027 seconds, while another Thai rider, Norasetada Dunma, completed the podium in 3rd place. The other gold medal from the track cycling camp was won by Nur Aisha Muhammad Zubir in the women's scratch event, defeating 2 Singaporean riders who took the silver and bronze medals respectively. Meanwhile, strong winds that hit the competition venue did not stop the national men's compound archery squad from delivering the gold medal after defeating host Thailand in the final. Playing at the Sports Authority of Thailand Archery Range, the compound archery trio of Muhammad Juwaidi Mazuki, Alang Arif Akil Muhammad Ghazali, and Muhammad Aiman Shafiq Muhammad Tariki displayed great composure in challenging weather conditions to record a 232-228 victory. The Thai team, which consisted of Sipakon Kokyu, Priparat Patana Pongkiat, and Ratan Danai Wongtana, had to accept the superiority of the national representatives. The success thus made up for the disappointment of winning the silver medal in the 2021 edition in Hanoi. The bronze medal in the event was won by the Vietnam team after defeating Indonesia in the 3rd place playoff. Malaysia ended an 8-year medal drought in the men's football at the SEA Games after defeating the Philippines 2-1 in the bronze medal playoff at the Raja Mangala National Stadium. Now, the victory sees the Harimau Muda squad return to the podium for the first time since winning silver at the 2017 edition in Kuala Lumpur. Muhammad Nafuzi Zain's men started aggressively and nearly opened the scoring in the 27th minute through a powerful long-range strike by Muhammad Hakimi Azim Rosli. But the Philippines goalkeeper Nicolas Guimarães managed to parry the attempt. Malaysia's opening goal arrived a minute later when Danish Hakimi Sahaluddin quickly poked the ball in during a goal-mouth scramble after Guimarães failed to clear a corner kick. However, the Philippines managed to equalize through an own goal by Muhammad Hakimi in the 36th minute. Nevertheless, the Kuala Lumpur City FC striker redeemed his mistake by providing Malaysia's winning goal in the 43rd minute, when he skillfully dribbled past Guimarães, who had left his lane, before calmly slotting a low shot into the net. The 2-1 scoreline held until the final whistle, confirming the bronze for Malaysia and ending the nation's football medal drought at the biennial games. Moving on to tennis, Nikolai Budkov-Kerr is on the brink of reaching the semis of the next-gen ATP finals after he beat Spain's Rafael Jodar in a 4-set encounter. Now, the 5th seed Norwegian took his second win of the round-robin stage 4-1, 4-2, 1-4, 4-2 in the Jeddah to secure the pole position and win the blue group. Budkov-Kerr resisted a mid-match fight-back from Jodar in the King Abdullah Sports City to move to 2-love in blue group play after beating Martin Landalus in his opener. In front of a lively crowd, Budkov-Kerr fired 2 aces and an unreturned first serve in his final service game to wrap up a victory in 79 minutes. With his win, he earned a dose of Jodar revenge, having lost to Spaniard in the 2024 US Open Boys Singles Final. In a standout season, the Norwegian has won 4 ATP Challenger Tour titles. Meanwhile, top seed Lerner Tien bounced back from defeat to Jodar in the opener to come back from a set down and overcome Spaniard Martin Landaluse, winning 2 tie-breaks on his way to a 1-4, 4-1, 4-3, 4-3 victory. The 20-year-old squandered 4 match points in his opening defeat to Jodar, but ensured history did not repeat itself against Landaluse, recovering after failing to serve out the match at 3-1 in the 4th set. After wasting 4 more match point opportunities, Tien recomposed himself into the 4th set tie-break. He upped the aggression to eventually record the victory against the 19-year-old Spaniard. The lefty will meet Budkov-Kerr in his final round-robin match tomorrow morning.
1-4, 4-1, 4-3, 4-3.
And that wraps up World Today. In our top story, violence erupts in Bangladesh after a youth leader dies. Tune in to Malaysia Tonight, coming up at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM. I'm Otto Othman. Salam Malaysia Madani. Have a great day ahead.